So with this tutorial, we're going to look at how to make corners with the three different materials that we will be using for the first workshops. We'll be using Basswood, Strathmore or vellum paper, and foam core. So it's important to have a nice corner in these exercises because you're doing formal studies, and if your corner looks misaligned, it can distract from the actual purpose of the exercise. So first I will show you how to do a corner with a piece of vellum paper. So in the end, it would look like this. So similar to Alyssa's exercise, when you want to make a fold or a corner situation with vellum, you want to set up the line that you have or where the corner would be, and then you create a tick mark on both sides of the paper. And then you take your X-Acto blade and you lightly score the one side of the paper. And then after this is done, you can flip it over and crease along the edge. And this will give you a nice corner. You can also do folds with vellum paper that are not perpendicular. So if you want to create an angle, just set up your tick marks again. Match your cutting edge to the tick marks and repeat the same process. So basically what we were trying to show you is that if you're going to use vellum for making shapes, that you should be making these folds or corners out of one piece of paper as much as you can. So next I'll show you how to do a foam core corner. And this is going to be more difficult because foam core comes in different thicknesses. It comes in from 1/16 inch to a 1/2 inch. And it has two layers of paper on the outside, and inside it has foam. So this is a bad example of a foam core corner where you just attach the two pieces together and then you have the inside part of the foam exposed. And then this is a proper example of using a foam core corner where the paper overlaps, and I'll show you how to do that now. So similar to the corner with the vellum paper, you set up your tick marks of where you want to cut the pieces, and then you bring your cutting edge up to the tick marks. You take your X-Acto blade, and what's important about cutting foam core is that you do as many passes with the blade as possible and press down lightly. You have to be patient with foam core, otherwise you will not get a straight and clean edge. So now what you want to do is you want to decide which piece is going to overlap the other piece. So in this case, this piece is going to overlap this piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the thickness of this foam core. And this thickness is a 1/2 centimeter. So I'm going to take that 1/2 centimeter and bring it over here to the piece that's going to overlap. And I make 2 tick marks for a 1/2 centimeter. After this is done, this is the very difficult part, is you line up your ruler or your cutting edge with the tick marks, and then you're very lightly going to cut into the foam core, but you want to be careful to not cut through the last layer of paper. You just want to cut through the first layer of paper and then the foam in between. So once you think you've cut through most of the foam, and as you can see, I haven't cut through the paper yet, then you flip up the foam core, and you take your knife blade very carefully, and you run it down the edge of the paper, in between the last piece of paper and the foam, and it should easily go all the way down. And once you have done this, you can remove that piece, and now you're left with just a paper tab. And you overlap this paper tab like so, and glue it together, and then that's how you get a nice corner with foam core. So you'll also be working with basswood sticks, and then they can come in varying widths. And there's different ways that you can deal with attaching the basswood sticks to themselves depending on the width. What I would recommend for the thinner, smaller cross sections like this piece are to cut it straight up and then attach them vertically as so. And then the edge should be pretty indistinguishable at that point. But if you're using the larger basswood, and you do the same thing, then there is a very distinct gap or gluing joint, and this could also be problematic because there might be a different wood grain on the outside. So what we want to do for the wider piece or the thicker piece of wood is to get out a chopper, which is the best way to cut the basswood sticks. And what you'll want to do is first cut the wood in half or however you want to whatever length you would like. And then what we want to do is we want to make a miter joint, which means we want to take off 45 degrees of both pieces of the basswood. And most chop blades also have the option of rotating it to 45 degrees, which would be the most ideal way of doing it. But you can also use a 45-degree triangle to get your line, or you could also use, most cutting mats have a 45-degree line, which is what I'll use. So I'll take both pieces, line them up on the cutting mat, and make tick marks where the 45-degree line comes through. Now I want to stress that you should be using the chopper for this as much as you can. But in this case, this one does not rotate, so I have to do this by hand. And you just have to be very careful and patient, like with the foam core. Very light strokes and as many as it takes to go through. So I will now do the same with this piece. And then you can attach them like you would a picture frame with just a little dab of glue. And that's all I have today for the corner problem.